Today we're going to use Microsoft Excel to create a Spanish Madlib. We have two sheet tabs for this. On the first sheet tab, your questions tab. These are simply the questions that you're going to have listed for someone. And for example, the first one, un lugar, not a name, proper noun. People that take your Madlib will put in their answers over here in the column next to the question. When they fill in their answers, that will generate over on the next sheet tab where it says Spanish Madlib, and your story will be building based on their answers. On this sheet, wherever you see a 0 and that bottom border, that is where the answers are filling in based on their questions on the previous tab. So what we're going to do in the video today is do some basics in Excel. I'll talk to you about moving around the screen and just some basic things you need to know about the program if you've never used it before. But then we'll create a mini version together so you're all set for your own project. First, we need to open Microsoft Excel. If you come down to the Start button on the lower left-hand corner, it may be in your most recently used right here. If it's not, you can type it down here in the search button, in the search box, I should say, Microsoft Excel, and it should pop up in your list. When you open a blank spreadsheet, it will look like this to begin with. A couple of things about Microsoft Excel if you've never been in here before. If you notice along the top, it is labeled with letters. Those are for your columns. If you click on any of the letters, you'll see that it highlights up and down for a column. Over on the left-hand side, it is numbered. Those are for your rows. If you click on any of those numbers, you'll see that it highlights left to right. All of the little squares or boxes in this spreadsheet are technically called cells. You can use your mouse to move around your screen. You can use your arrow keys to move up and down. You can use tab and shift tab to move forward and back. At the bottom of every sheet, you'll have 3 sheets by default. They all look the same. They're blank. If you need more than 3 sheets, there's an Insert Worksheet button here that you can just click to add more. If you don't need all of your sheets, you can simply delete them. For your project, you are only going to need 2 sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and delete what you have here for sheet 3. I'm going to right-click on sheet 3 and choose Delete. Anything that you need to do with your sheet tabs pretty much can be done with a right-click. I want to rename Sheet 1 and Sheet 2 to make them more descriptive for our project. So for the first one, Sheet 1, you can double click it or you can right click and choose Rename. We want to go ahead and name this Questions. And on Sheet 2, we are going to name it Spanish Madlib. And I'll give you just a second there to get that typed in. Let's go ahead and navigate back to Sheet 1 and begin creating our Madlib together. So our first question that we're going to ask is un lugar, and we'll give them a little bit more description here and say that it's not a name, proper noun. We have a little bit of a problem with our first clue here. You can see that it bleeds over into 2 other columns, or it looks like it does at this time. Whenever that happens to you in Excel, you simply need to resize your column. A quick way to do this is by coming up between the 2 columns that it is bleeding between, and you can simply double click between them. You can see my mouse change from the down arrow to the double-headed arrow. If you double click, it automatically resizes to the longest line. If you don't like that, you can manually move it left to right as well. In column B, in the first cell, so B1, every cell has a name, and it's named by the column in the row that it's in. So I am in column B, row 1, so we're going to call that B1, is where they're going to put their answer. So to designate that spot, I'm just going to make a bottom border there so it looks like a spot that they can fill in. So by clicking in cell B1, then I'm going to go up on my ribbon and look for the Borders button and choose Bottom Border from the list. There are several other options. If you prefer to do a thick bottom border, that's in here as well. And when you click away, you can see that there's a border there. Now your answer probably is going to be longer than that space allotted. So if you want to go ahead and manually resize that to make it a little bit longer for the response, you can do that. Let's go to cell A2, so column A, row 2, and let's do another one. We're going to do una persona and say it's not a name, proper noun. Give you a minute to type that. Resize if necessary for it to fit. And add a bottom border again, just like you did on the previous line. So I'm clicking in cell B2 and I'm choosing the bottom border button again to add that bottom border. And I'll click off just so that you can see. So far we should have these two questions, a spot for people to write their responses in, and down at the bottom our sheet tabs should be labeled Questions in Spanish Madlib. Now for this to work, people are going to write their responses in column B, and that is going to generate over into the next sheet tab under Spanish Madlib where your story is going to be. So we need to first of all start creating your story and then leaving blanks for the answers from the questions from sheet 1. So let's start doing that together. I'm going to zoom in just a little so maybe you can see my typing easier here. And we're going to start creating a story, so if you could follow with me. In this example, there is a letter that requires an accent mark, this I in Javier. I am going to come over there and I'm going to delete the I, and I'm going to insert a symbol that will put in an accent mark for you. So once I deleted the I, I'm going to come up to my ribbon and find the Insert tab. When you look all the way over to the right-hand side, Symbol is listed there. Click on Symbol. Symbols are a little overwhelming. There are a lot of options. If you look in this drop down for font, you can change these and it will change your symbols. If you look at subset, again, you'll get more options there. I am in Calibri right now, so if yours is not there, you can go ahead and switch to that. It is in alphabetical order, Calibri. And then over on subset, I am going to choose Latin 1 supplement. There are other ways or other fonts that you can look under to get these accents. This is just the one that I'm going to choose for the example. You can see that it has the A, the E, the I, and so forth here. I'm going to go ahead and choose this example of the I with the accent mark and click on Insert and Close. This is a little bit long, so I'm going to go ahead and resize my column again and come over to cell B2. This is where we're going to have one of our responses from the questions. I'm going to use that borders button like we did on the questions and put an underline there so that we can recognize that's where it is coming from, an answer from the previous page. In cell C2, let's add a little bit more to our story. I'm going to go ahead and resize that column so it's a little bit longer. Give you a minute to type that. Again, we have an accent mark in here. The second I, I'm going to delete it. Go to Insert, Symbol, and choose Insert there. And in cell D2, I'm going to go ahead and put that bottom border one more time to show that this is where an answer is going to be from our previous page. So how do we get this information to link from our questions to the story? You're going to click where you want the answer to go. So I'm clicking in cell B1. And the first thing in every formula is an equal sign, so I'm going to type in equals. And then all I have to do is go click on the cell that I want it to link to. So after you type equals, move down to the questions sheet tab and click in cell B1. If you take a look up here in your formula bar, it'll say equal questions, and it says questions because that's the name of your sheet tab at the bottom, and it tells you what cell you're in, B1. You do not have to click back anywhere. Once you've clicked on that cell B1, just hit enter and it will take you back to the other sheet, and that information is linked. Currently, there is nothing in that cell, and that's why it says 0. When we type an answer in, it will show on this page. Let's do that one more time. In cell D1, let's type an equal sign. We're going down to the questions tab. This time we're going to click on cell B2 because this is where we want that answer to come from. Again, look at your formula bar, questions B2, and we'll hit enter. Let's try it out. So now whenever we type our answers in on the question sheet, it should fill into these two cells here on this sheet, on the Spanish Madlib. So I'm going to go back over to questions, and in cell B1 we're going to type un palacio and hit enter. In cell B2 we are typing padre and hit enter. When you go to your next sheet, your Spanish Madlib, you should see those answers filled in those appropriate places. Un palacio and padre. Okay, that's just a very small example of what you're going to be creating for your project. To finish it up, I need to talk to you about how do you put your name on this project and how do you print it. So let's go ahead and put a header on this page. You're going to have to do it on both sheets. To create a header, we're going to the Insert tab up at the top, and you're choosing Header Footer over here. In the header, let's put Created By and your first and last name. We'll go to the Questions tab, and you're going to do the exact same thing. I click on Questions. We're going to Insert, Header and Footer. We're going to do the Created By again, your first and last name. To print, you're going up to the File tab in the upper left-hand corner and choosing Print. Let's take a look at these options because this will change depending on your situation. Right now this looks good. If you look in your print preview, you can see your header there. You can see all the information on that page. If you need to, you can come down here under Orientation where it says Portrait and change it to Landscape so it prints left to right if you need more room. If that doesn't work for you, you can also use the scaling option to say Fit Sheet on one page if you need to fit this. This may be more likely to, or you may have to use this more with this second sheet tab, but these are your options to play with your wording on your pages. Okay. Then to print, you're going to click on the drop down here under Printer and find mine. It is HS Lab 228 copier, and you can go ahead and print that. You will need to go back and do the same thing for your Spanish Madlib. Click on that sheet tab, go to File, choose Print. Again, check out your page. Do you need to change the orientation to landscape? Do you need to change the scaling to fit it to one sheet? When you're all set, you can go ahead and choose 228 copier and print that. Grab both of your items from the printer, staple them together, and turn them in. Then you can get started on your own personal Spanish story.